Welcome to AUCDI 101, an introduction to the Australian Clinical Data for Interoperability. I'm your host, Kai Lin, the Clinical Design Lead for Sparked, Australia's Fire Accelerator. In this video, I will cover the what, the why, and the how of the Australian Clinical Data for Interoperability, its development approach, its contents, its scope, and what's next. So first up, what is the Australian Clinical Data for Interoperability? AUCDI, alongside other countries, follows in the footsteps of the US, who published their first version of US CDI in 2020. The Australian Clinical Data for Interoperability, AUCDI, is a collection of data groups and data elements representing the clinical patient care requirements for data entry, data use, and sharing of health information supporting care. AUCDI has been developed and will continue to evolve to include health data to support care across a person's life course, across the health continuum, preventative, acute and chronic care, and across the health ecosystem, all domains, private and public, from primary to population health. AUCDI itself is not specific to any single use case. However, it supports data exchange of core common data that sits across multiple use cases, as well as use case specific data elements, as identified by the community that developed it. It incorporates and builds upon existing standards and prior work from national and international programs and initiatives. And it's a living artifact that will evolve and grow in future iterations to support additional use cases, adding breadth by including new clinical data groups and depth by expanding with further granular detail. It provides the common data foundation that can be referenced for specific use cases, with data groups being reused and extended as necessary. So why AUCDI? The Australian health IT landscape is currently characterised by isolated health information systems, often confined within single clinics or organisations. There is fragmentation across primary, acute and tertiary care sectors, and there is often a divide between collection of data for primary clinical use purposes and public health and population data use. This fragmentation complicates the capture and reuse of health data. Data captured in one system often cannot be efficiently or accurately reused in another, leading to redundant data entry and potential inconsistencies in electronic health records. This leads to risks to clinical safety and quality of care, and potentially missed opportunities to use the data collected to improve care delivery. It can also mean an increase in the workload on healthcare services delivery, trying to meet both clinical and reporting requirements when it comes to data collection. With AUCDI, we are establishing a national consensus on clinical data requirements as a foundation for digital health to enable the collection, exchange and reuse of meaningful data for timely and appropriate care. This approach will support standardised clinical decision support and digital health innovation, standardised reporting, AI, and aggregation for research and analysis. So, how can AUCDI be used? AUCDI can be used as a knowledge base for validated clinical data requirements. It also serves as a common data foundation that can be reused in other national data use cases. It can also be used as published reporting foundation that technical and non-technical specifications, such as reporting and aggregation, can be developed against. It also provides resources for vendors to not only use as a roadmap as they enhance their existing systems, but to also be able to leverage existing validated data models to start new applications or projects. How is AUCDI being developed? The AUCDI is being developed in collaboration with the community and is informed by the key data drivers such as clinical recording and documentation, clinical decision support, data reuse and reporting requirements. In order to support maximum reuse and leveraging previous investment, the data model has been informed by other key local and international initiatives and programs, such as previous Australian specifications and international standards. This includes My Health Record specifications, CSIRO's Primary Care Data Quality Foundations, AIHW Minimum Datasets, International Patient Summary, or IPS, the Pan-Canadian Health Data Content Framework, the United States Core Data for Interoperability, USCDI, UK's Professional Record Standards Body, PRSB, HL7 FHIR, and Open EHR archetypes. The AUCDI is deliberately designed to capture requirements from clinicians and non-technical stakeholders, ensuring that the clinical data for interoperability represents common, well-defined requirements identified from agreed use cases. The AUCDI's direction and scope are established through in-person workshops involving clinicians, informaticians, software engineers and other stakeholders. The structured representation of the AUCDI concepts have been informed by leveraging Open EHR International's archetypes, an established clinical information modelling standard, which have been purposely developed by clinicians and informaticians focused on ensuring high-quality structured clinical data that is clinically safe and fit for purpose. AUCDI is currently represented as a document on the SPARC website. The AUCDI data library contains logical representations of the clinical data essential for interoperability, organised into conceptually specific data groups and presented in a series of tables. A data group is a standalone content specification for a single clinical concept, focusing on the structure of data and the relationships between data elements. Each data group will contain one or more data elements. A data element is an atomic unit of data that has precise meaning or semantics, including a data element name, description, data type, and appropriate constraints. It incorporates codes or value sets from a terminology system where relevant. For example, one of the data groups in AUCDI is the Adverse Reaction Risk Summary. Example data elements belonging to this data group is the substance name, the manifestation, comment, and last updated. The AUCDI represents the logical representation of the data groups as a series of tables and mind maps, with the mind maps showing how the data elements are structured within the data group and the tables providing detailed information about the data groups and elements. Within the AUCDI document, each data group is presented in a consistent way. The data group context provides metadata about the data group as a whole, its description, purpose, use cases and collections it belongs to, representation, aliases and considerations for use and misuse. There may also be other information about the data group to provide additional context and discussion held during the development of the AUCDI. Next is a mind map concept representation to show how the data elements included are structured. After that is the information model. This is a tabular representation of the logical model for each of the data elements included. Each data element has a description, use cases, occurrence, data type, recommended code system value sets, examples, aliases, and considerations. And then a for future consideration section that is a description of how the data group might evolve towards future releases. Specific considerations may be highlighted and issues that may have been identified as controversial, requiring further investigation and discussion. A mind map of a proposed comprehensive data group, considered a potential roadmap for future AUCDI releases and clinical information system evolution, is included. AUCDI is the foundation on which more comprehensive data groups will be built as standards, policies, technical implementations, and user requirements mature and evolve. Key considerations in determining the scope of the AUCDI are to include data that is well understood, commonly used, and well supported by existing clinical systems. Identify incremental change that will create benefits and support broad reuse across multiple use cases. Create a starting block to build upon, avoiding breaking changes in the future as much as possible, and to support clinical safety and best practices. You can find the information about AUCDI, for example, the development approach with the SPARC Clinical Design Group, use cases and scope, as well as AUCDI itself on our website at sparked.csiro.au. We are now working on the next release of AUCDI with the SPARC Clinical Design Group. If you are interested in shaping what future releases of AUCDI will look like, please come and join us. You can follow the QR code to our website, or you can go to sparked.csiro.au or send us an email at sparked@csiro.au. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you at a SPARC meeting soon. Bye.